Chapter 1. Bronx Zoo. The late afternoon sun hung low over Fordham, its orange glow stretching long, crooked shadows across the cracked sidewalks. Weeds pushed stubbornly through the concrete, and the buildings leaned close together as if they were sharing their secrets. Claire stepped out of their worn one-bedroom apartment and pulled the door shut behind her, the lock clicking louder than she liked. She adjusted the strap of her purse and looked down at her son. "You got all your stuff in that backpack, bud?" Liam stood on the stoop, his backpack nearly half the size of him. He nodded, dark brown curls bouncing slightly as he did. At 10 years old, he was small for his age and quiet in a way that made teachers worry and strangers forget him entirely. Claire knew better. Liam saw everything. Despite his shyness, he was a smart young man. She forced a smile and said, "Okay, let's get going." She reached for his hand, wrapping her fingers around his, and they headed down the block at a brisk pace. The air smelled like exhaust and old food, the city breathing heavily around them. Claire's eyes flicked to the time on her phone. She couldn't be late tonight, not again. The Bronx Zoo paid just enough to keep them afloat, and that was only because she took the night cleaning shifts no one else wanted. The subway station yawned open before them, swallowing light and warmth. Heat rolled up from below as they descended the steps, the sound of an approaching train rattling through the bones of the platform. Claire tightened her grip on Liam's hand as people surged around them, a river of bodies moving with no regard for who got swept under. When the train screeched into the station, Claire spotted 2 open seats near the center car. She pushed forward, guiding Liam through the crowd, her muscles burning as she hauled them into place just before the doors slammed shut. They sat shoulder to shoulder as the train lurched into motion. Claire let out a slow breath and began her familiar ritual of watching people, half distraction, half getting the time behind her, and learning about all the characters on the subway at this time. The subway after dark was its own ecosystem. The vampire kids sat near the doors, pale faces painted white, lips red as fresh blood, dressed like they were daring the world to look away. A group of tattooed men laughed too loudly, their skin so layered with ink it was hard to tell where the art ended and the person began. Near the far end of the car, a dealer whispered promises to a jittery woman whose hands wouldn't stop shaking. Across from them, an addict slumped forward, mumbling to no one, and then there were the people like her. Tired, quiet. Just trying to get from one place to another without becoming someone else's problem. Liam leaned into her side. His eyes tracked every movement, every sound. "Are you okay?" Claire whispered. He hesitated, then nodded. "Yeah." The train jolted suddenly, lights flickering overhead. A ripple of unease ran through the car as passengers shifted and muttered. Claire's stomach tightened, but the train continued, the moment passing as quickly as it came. Still, the feeling stayed with her. When they finally stepped off at their stop, the air outside felt cooler and heavier. The towering fence of the Bronx Zoo rose ahead, its dark outline cutting into the evening sky. Claire swiped her badge at the staff entrance, the gate groaning as it opened. Inside, the city noise faded, replaced by distant animal calls and the hum of security lights. The zoo after hours was a strange place, half asleep, half alert, like something waiting to pounce. They walked along the concrete paths toward the staff building, Claire's footsteps quick and purposeful. "Same rules," she said gently. "Locker room, stay there, draw. Don't open the door for anyone but me." "I know," Liam said. Inside the locker room, fluorescent lights buzzed softly. Claire set Liam up on a bench, pulling his sketchpad and pencils from his bag. Drawing was his anchor, his way of making sense of the world. She knelt in front of him and brushed a curl from his forehead. "I'll be close," she said. "Just the offices tonight." Liam nodded and opened his sketchbook, already sketching lines across the page. Claire headed into the administrative wing, snapping on gloves and filling her bucket. She moved methodically, wiping desks, emptying trash and mopping the floors. It was mindless work, and usually that helped. Tonight it didn't. The animals were restless. Not constant noise, but sharp, uneven bursts that shattered the quiet without warning. A sudden roar ripped through the concrete corridors, so loud it vibrated in Claire's chest before she could stop herself from flinching. The cats were nervous tonight. She could always tell. The sound they made wasn't just noise, it was intent. Low, rolling growls that crawled under her skin and settled deep in her bones. It was the same sound her body recognized from somewhere older than memory, the kind that screamed run even when nowhere was safe to go. a flee-for-your-life feeling, primal and unforgiving. Claire hated the big cats. Lions, tigers, leopards, anything with eyes that saw you as meat if the bars ever failed. She knew the enclosures were secure. She had been told that 100 times, but knowledge didn't quite replace instinct and fear. Her grip tightened on the mop handle as another sound echoed down the hall, closer this time. She swallowed hard and forced herself to keep moving. Stopping would only make it worse. Letting fear take over meant losing control, and she couldn't afford that. Not ever. She pushed the mop forward and began to hum under her breath. It was an old tune her mother used to sing when the lights went out back when Claire was a kid. Slow, soft, barely more than a whisper. The melody wavered at first, but she steadied it, matching the rhythm to her steps. One pass of the mop, one breath in, one breath out. You're fine, she told herself, just another night. The song wrapped around her nerves like a thin blanket, too small but better than nothing. Her heartbeat slowed, just enough for her hands to stop shaking. She focused on the sound of her own voice, on the clean streaks of water spreading across the floor, on anything that wasn't the animals behind the walls. And then, somewhere in the distance, there was a sudden, sharp chirp of an alarm. After that, it stopped. Claire went cold. The mop froze in her hands, and her entire body was stiff, as if an iron hand were squeezing her heart. Over her radio, she waited for a security voice, a follow-up call, anything. Rather, her radio crackled with static, sounding hollow, incomplete, and empty. Back in the locker room, Liam's pencil slowed. His drawing had changed, with dark shapes pressed against strained, bending barriers and thick lines. He scowled and applied more pressure, creating deeper shadows while the graphite smudged beneath his fingers. Somewhere deep within the zoo, a lock failed on purpose. A door creaked open, and no one, human or animal, was ready for what came next.